Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You are now listening to the Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zach and Zoe. Thank you for joining us as we talk about the movies of yesteryear. You can reach us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter by searching for Backlook Cinema. Check our show notes for more info, and now, let's get it in.
This is Zach.
And this is Zoe, and welcome to the Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zach and Zoe, where we take a look back at the movies of yesteryear. And if we sound weird, it's because this is a very special episode where we are recording remotely because my schedule got messed up. So we're recording remotely. I'm out here in the world, out here somewhere in the wilds of Maryland, and Zachary is recording at home. So the reason we started this show was to strengthen the bond between father and son. So between Zach and me, and we watch movies that I love when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we get Zach's impressions on these great movies.
You can get t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, face masks, and a bunch of other items at our website, backlookcinema.com.
Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and other socials. You can find details in the show notes. Also at backlookcinema.com. You can leave us direct feedback, comments, suggestions, etc. Email us at fanmail@backlookcinema.com.
And please, if you like our show, then rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast app that you might be using.
So, what have you been up to?
Nothing but playing games on my phone and playing games on my PS4.
What games you playing on PS4?
Smite, and that's just about it. I'm thinking about getting the new Resident Evil game just to get into it.
Did you play the demo?
No, I didn't get the chance to. And
Yeah.
the chance for it to play is already over.
Right. Yeah, they only gave it a limited window, but I'm hearing a lot of good things about it. It's supposed to be spooky.
Of course, that's how Resident Evil was supposed to be, but 4 broke away from it, 5 broke further away from it, and then 6 is something that people don't want to talk about because it definitely broke away from it.
So what you didn't play Resident Evil 7?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I heard that like this game is supposed to be like a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7.
It is.
And the last Resident Evil that I played was Resident Evil 4. It's one of my favorite. No, actually, I played the Game Boy version too. I think it's called Revelations or whatever.
You mean the DS. Stop calling it a Game Boy. It's the DS. Complete difference.
Yeah, it's a DS. What's it called? No, it's not the DS. What's it called? It's called
the 3DS? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. 3DS.
It's still a DS.
So but mine is special because it's the 3DS new. The new is whatever. Anyways, so yeah, I played that version, and that's just more like it's supposed to be set up like a training program, so you're not in an actual adventure. But so the last actual adventure I played was Resident Evil 4. That was pretty good. I never got into 5 because it's supposed to be co-op. I'm not really into co-op games like that. So but that was pretty good. It felt scary to me. I didn't play the really scary ones. Maybe I should. I downloaded like Resident Evil 2 remake, I think. So that's ought to good. That ought to be good. Have you been playing the PlayStation 3 in the living room?
No.
Okay, because it was like set up and it had downloaded some games I didn't know.
Oh yeah, I did play it a little bit.
Oh, I thought so. Because like I don't remember this game being downloaded. You had downloaded a Street Fighter game, or is a Street Fighter versus SNK?
No, so it's a Street Fighter game.
Right.
Kind of.
Well, it's got some extra characters in there, and then it was another game I can't remember, but I played
Red Dead Redemption Undead.
Yeah, the Red Dead Redemption one. So yeah, I played a little bit of that Street Fighter game. I was like, yeah, I still suck at Street Fighter. Another game that I suck at, like this weekend I bought what you call that one?
Army of Two.
Yeah, Army of Two, because I thought maybe we could try. Remember we tried to play that one time a long time ago.
Maybe.
Yeah, so but we only like played like a couple minutes of it. So I thought we could try to start that up again because it's got a side by side. It's like, oh, this is neat. I've been looking for that game too. You done sold it. Now I gotta go looking for it again. And then the other game I got was the upgraded version of Samurai Showdown. I had to track that down. I had to give somebody a GameStop to tell me where they were selling it at. and I had to drive all the way out there to basically 20 minutes out of the way to get it at that GameStop. And they had one copy, so I got that one copy for $20. But as I discovered when I got home, I pretty much suck at that game too. I always sucked at Samurai Showdown, so I still suck at it. But I just like the imagery of that game. I could tell it's going to be super complicated trying to play it. So also I've been listening to an audiobook, A Million Ways to Die in the West, and it's actually just a, a book adaptation of the movie of the screenplay. And I was like, why did I even get this book? I heard that the movie wasn't funny. I hadn't seen the movie, and I heard it wasn't that funny. And the book isn't that funny either. So it's kind of a disappointment. I think the only reason I bought it is because it has a Jonathan Franks in there. He was on Star Trek, so I think that's the only reason I got it. He's the one that's he's doing the he's reading the book. So I also I watched Tom Segura, Mostly Stories. It's a comedy special he came out with a few years ago. That was pretty funny. And I wanted to watch The Bad Batch, just never got around to it. Maybe I'll get in. Maybe I'll binge 3 episodes this weekend or something. But I hadn't even finished the Clone War, so the point is mute on that. So, you see anything on TV or whatever?
No.
Oh, you the one that pointed me out to that the trailer for what was that movie?
Venom.
Right, right. What do you think of that one?
Something I'm gonna go see in theaters, apparently.
Right, because it's only in theaters. You should be well vaccinated by the time I come out. I think it comes out in what, July or August, somewhere around there. You should be fully vaccinated by the time I come out. But yeah, it looks alright. It looks like the first movie, and I kind of like the first movie. People are like, "Oh man, that first movie was trash," but I'm like, "Well, it's good trash." Sometimes you gotta eat some good trash.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was real good.
Right, right, right. It was actually funny to me. There were some parts that were kind of cringeworthy, but otherwise it was pretty fun. I mean, it got like the closer it got to the boss fight, the cheesier it started to get. But for most of the movie, I kind of liked it. So well, you know what? Let's get into it. Uh, Tell them about the movie we just watched,
So we watched Stargate.
Stargate. What's going on with Stargate?
A mysterious object found in Egypt in the 1940s is put into a storage until a genius figures out how to operate it. Now there is a link between Earth and an unknown galaxy millions of light years away. A U.S. Air Force colonel is sent with his team to explore the unknown. But there's only one problem. When they reach this Earth like planet, there is no way to reopen the Stargate. That was by Michael Feller?
Feller, yeah, that's correct. That's actually heavily edited by me because I got that from IMDb and that was his what you call it. That was his synopsis, and I was like, wow, that's the way he had written it. It was like all over the place. So I had tried to condense it and edit it to where it would make sense. And then a correction: they found the mysterious objects in the 1920s, not the 1940s. That was my bad. So anyway, this movie was released in October 28th, 1994 by MGM. It grossed over $71 million dollars in the US and Canada and $196 million dollars worldwide on a $55 million budget. It had mixed reviews. So basically, the critics were not a fan of it because it had some severe logic problems, but the audience loved it. So, who was in this movie?
We have Kurt Russells, who is, excuse me, Colonel Jonathan Jack O'Neill. He was in The Hateful Eight, Escape from New York, Snake Plissken, and Executive Decision and Backdraft.
Oh, so you know about the old Snake Plissken.
Yes and no. I never seen the movie, but I only know about it because when it comes to like trivia facts about Metal Gear Solid and the connection between the main character in Escape from New York and Metal Gear Solid, they just had that little connection
Right,
because
right,
of
right.
how they looked alike.
Right, right. He in Snake, not Snake, but Solid Snake. Eventually, well, actually, they have the same name. You have Solid Snake and you have Snake Plissken. And then Solid Snake had eventually got that eye patch, which, if you notice on some of the artwork, he looks through his rifle and the weapon sights with the eye that's covered with the patch. And that,
Another thing, I think it was in Metal Gear Solid 2, where
uh,
he adopted the name Snake Plissken
oh,
as
did he?
an
I didn't know that.
yeah, because that's
So
when you're playing as Raiden, and no one liked playing as Raiden.
right. So, well, they didn't like the fact they didn't like the bait and switch. It's not so much they didn't like playing as right. It's that in all of the marketing campaigns, it was all about Snake Plissken, and on the box art, you see Snake Plissken. And then as they're playing the game after the first chapter, it's like, well, I'm a brand new character. This sucks. I didn't pay for this. So a lot of people didn't appreciate the bait and switch. But
At
I
least Kojima apologized when it came to the next Metal Gear Solid game. He
right,
did
right.
apologize.
So if he had marketed it fairly, then I don't think people would have that hatred for the bait and switch that they had. So so Kurt Russell, he's a legendary actor. He's been in a lot of movies. I didn't even mention that he was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, was he? No, or not. I can't remember. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He was in that one. He was also in shoot some other I forgot. He was the Fast and the Furious franchise. He was in there. He's just uh he was acting since he was very young. He was originally one of a Disney actor. He when he was I guess in his early 20s, he acted in a lot of Disney like adventure films, and so he wanted to shed that Disney image. So one of the first movies he did was Escape from New York. Get a little bit of a harder edge. So anyway, to continue, James Spader, he played Dr. Daniel Jackson. He was in Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Boston Legal, and Blacklist.
Then we have Jay Davidson.
Hmm.
He was playing Raw. He was in The Crying Game.
Right. So pretty much after this movie, Stargate, he retired from acting. He didn't like the attention that he got from the Crying Game. He didn't have a especially good time in Stargate, so he decided to peace out. Vivica Lindfors, she played Catherine Langford. She was in Creepshow, Adventures of Don Juan, and Exorcist 3. So I don't know a lot about this actress, but apparently she was real big in the 1940s and 50s, and this is just her continuing her acting career in her later years. She played the older woman who recruited Daniel Jackson.
We have Alexis Cruz. She was playing Scar.
No, that's a dude.
Oh, the dude. Okay, Alexis Cruz. He was playing Scar.
uh,
Uh,
and
Scar, and he was in Why Do Fools Fall in Love?
Right. He was in a couple other movies. He's basically a TV actor. So Scara is that kid that formed a relationship with Kurt Russell or
Okay.
Colonel Jack O'Neill. Then we have Millie Avitil. She played Shauri, and she was in Kissing a Fool, among a bunch of other things. So she was Daniel's love interest.
Let's see. We have Leon Rippey. Rippey.
Yep,
Okay.
that sounds good.
He played as General W.O. West. He was in Eight Legged Freaks, Deadwood, and The Patriot.
He was also in something else, and I just remember because I saw his face. And I was like, I know that face from somewhere, and I just remember where I saw his face. Was uh, he was in one of the Star Trek the Next Generation episodes. So
Right.
in that episode, he played a dude that had he was alive in like the 1990s or the early 2000s, and then instead of dying, he had himself cryogenically frozen, and then him and a bunch of other cryogenically frozen people were launched into outer space and just sent somewhere. And they were eventually discovered by the Enterprise. And Data have found the capsule that they was in and brought them back to life because they were just frozen. They weren't dead. Well, they were dead. And Picard asked them, why would you do that? Why would you bring them back to life? And Data said, well, it seemed like the logical thing to do. And Picard's like, but Data, they were already dead. I mean, what more could have happened to them?
A lot, just a lot.
All right, go ahead.
This is you. What do you mean?
Oh, is it my? Oh, that's right. You read the first. Okay. So just John Dow. I guess that's how you say it. Dial. He played Lieutenant Kowalski.
We have Carlos Lachu.
I think. Yeah, that sounds right.
He was playing Anubis.
Right. So Anubis, that's one of the guards that wore
That
the
was the lead
elaborate
guard.
helmet. Right, that was the lead guard. You have Jaimin Hunsu. He played Horus. He was in Blood Diamonds, Captain Marvel, Amistad, and so many other movies. He is a fantastic actor, and this is one of his first movie roles. He
Then we
also,
have
no, I was
who's
just
gonna
saying
be
he played the other guard.
okay. Then we have Eric Avari. He was Kasuf.
Uh huh.
Kusev. He was in Planet of the Apes and The Mummy.
Right. I included him because he's a great character actor. He's been in a lot of movies. Almost every time you need like a Middle Eastern or an Egyptian looking actor, they get this guy. He tends to show up. So this was
This
directed.
was directed
Oh,
by Roland
Emmerich.
Emmerich. He did Independence Day, Godzilla, and The Day After Tomorrow.
Right. All of your favorite movies that don't make any sense. Like as soon as you try to apply logic to them, it totally breaks down. But and this movie is no different. But I think it's the logical fallacies are better hidden in this movies than some of his other movies. But this is a dude that makes great movies, and at the same time, he don't care about logic or plot holes or anything. It was written by Dean Delvin and Roland Emmerich. They did a lot of the same movies together. So a lot of the movies that Roland Emmerich had directed, Dean Delvin and Roland Emmerich were writing partners on whatever particular movie. So they did Independence Day, Godzilla, etc. together. The ones that Delvin did by himself was Independent. I mean, I'm sorry, Universal Soldier. We had saw that before we started the podcast. And Emmerich had did a movie called Moon 44, among a few other films that I am not familiar with. The music was by David Arnold. He did Casino Royale, Godzilla, and The World Is Not Enough. David Arnold was great because this is his first major film where he did the music for, and the music in this film is fantastic. It's one of those films where the score is so popular that they use it in other movies for trailers and for other movies. So the movie he did, the music he did for this movie is outstanding. Also, the executive producer is Mario Kasser. He's also did work on Total Recall, Cliffhanger, and First Blood, the Rambo movie.
All
So,
right, so we're gonna take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk about our favorite parts of the movie, some movie trivia, and find out what some of the critics thought.
Hi, we're Wayland Yutani, and we're looking for volunteers. The people that we're looking for need to be intelligent, curious, physically fit, and able to adapt to dynamic change. If this sounds like you, then please contact us. Our space exploration division is growing fast, and we're looking for candidates all over the world. We've set our sights high, and our goals are extremely ambitious. We're moving at a fast pace and looking for those who can keep up, so slowpokes need not apply. We're working with the most advanced technology designed to keep our teams and partners safe and healthy, though there is risk involved. Therefore, applicants need not be risk averse. If accepted, you will immediately be initiated into our world-class training program. The best trainers, educators, nutritionalists, and engineers will be at your disposal. Most of your needs will be met at one of our 7 training campuses, and you will be very well compensated. If you feel like you have the drive, ambition, and heart to join us, then don't hesitate to call. We look forward to your assimilation. We are Wayland Yutani.
welcome back to the Backlit Cinema podcast with Zach and Zoe. So now we are going to get into some of the juicy trivia, but before we
No,
do
I
that,
was say we're gonna talk about
before we
the
do
favorite
that,
parts.
yes, Zachary, what's some of your favorite parts about the movie?
All right, so you already know the first part of the first half of the movie is boring as heck, so I'm not gonna go over that. I'm just gonna skip to where all the guys are outside in the sand. Daniel comes up to sit down, and he's just going through his pockets of what they supplied him with, trying to find sunblock. One of the guys picks up his suitcase, toss it over, causing him to go and pick up all his stuff. That's when he realized there's some tracks in the sand, and when he follows it, he sees this animal that's not seen on Earth, but a native to this planet. He goes up to it, basically trying to befriend it, and then he's feeding it, and that's when the colonel shows up. What's his name?
Colonel O'Neill.
Yeah, Colonel O'Neill. He comes out telling him to get away from the animal and stuff. And before Daniel could be like, but he's on a leash, they scared it a little bit, causing the animal to run off, causing Daniel's leg to be caught in some rope that was attached to the animal and to be dragged away. So we have Colonel O'Neill and two, I think General W.O. West is with them, and then another
No,
guy.
he's not. He's not with him.
He's
All
not
of
with them.
those.
Okay.
Right.
So it's just two other army guys with him
With the
trying
Air
to chase
Force.
after Daniel.
Right.
Yeah, the Air Force just trying to chase after Daniel to catch up to him, and they're going for miles, and I mean miles. And I'm like, why even continue to chase?
Right. It do
You
seem
just
like
continue to chase. You could just shoot the animal down, but I guess not. That's fine.
right.
And then that's when they end up seeing their civilization.
Right.
Uh,
So
Go
so
ahead.
yeah, this is when they get to the next planet, and so this is one of the first incidents happen when they get to the new planet.
Actually, but yeah, I think I will choose something from the first half of the movie when he comes up and he's just like, "Oh wait, these translations are completely wrong," and just goes up
Right.
to the boy and just like, "Erase this, write this." I'm like, "Wow!" He's like, "Who translated this?" And the guy who's telling him, talking about what you're doing is wrong, is like, he's like, "I don't even want to answer because it was me who translated it." And it was
Right.
like, okay, there's supposed to be seven symbols. I know what the seventh one is, and it should look like it should look like a pyramid with two people on the side with a circle above it. And it's like he was like, "There's nothing on that on the gate. You must be seeing things." And then when he sees a symbol, he's like, he takes a pen, draws on the screen. This is permanent marker, by the way.
Right. He draws
Draws
on
on the
a
screen
computer
on a
monitor.
computer screen. It's like, oh, it was on the gate all along and it was right in front of us. I'm like, the guy translated something and figured this out in 14 days, which you couldn't do in like what, 4 years?
Right.
That's a giant leap of of how better he is at his job.
Right. The other thing
Uh,
is that he don't know nothing about nowadays you hear a lot about not barriers. What's the word I'm looking for? Not parameters. I guess it is barriers. Like people have to have barriers, and he don't care about barriers. Daniel doesn't care about barriers. He'll just grab something. He'll just
and he's
take the
like, "Oh, you think
newspaper.
you're smart? Let me break down your walls real quick and let me show you something."
Well, not just that, but he'll like if you're reading a newspaper, he'll just take your newspaper
Oh
and
yeah, he just straight up
then,
takes the newspapers
or
from a guard.
he'll just start drawing on your chalkboard or start drawing on your computer monitor. He don't care nothing about boundaries. That's the word I was looking for. He don't care about
Mm.
boundaries.
So another scene was when he was shown the hidden hieroglyphics, and he was like, "Okay, so I can learn the language a little bit and understand them." That was a good scene because
Right.
it helps push the story. It helps push the movie along. Of instead of them just being trapped there and them having no way to communicate, there's a way to communicate now.
Right. One of the things that really impressed me about this movie is that, like in most sci-fi movies, they kind of skip over the communication part. There's always like a magical device that helps to communicate with alien species. Most of the time, they just ignore it altogether and they just start talking to another culture in English, where they don't even care how they get to that point. But this movie really takes its time and trying to figure out how to get to that point. How are you going to communicate with somebody and you have nothing in common. There's nothing in your language that's in common. So, or at least at first there isn't. At first they can't find anything. They don't know how to speak the language. And then and so the movie really takes its time getting there. It almost makes you impatient. It's like, when are they going to start talking to each other? Because it's handled in one of the most realistic versions of how you would meet people and not be able to understand what they're saying, and they can't understand what you're saying, and
Yeah,
you have go
go
ahead.
ahead. You was
No,
gonna
you
say
good.
something. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's like you have to almost like fight to communicate. That's all I was saying.
Oh yeah. So I was also gonna say it also helped move the plot on who the villain was because there was no real villain at first, and it seems like okay, they just had to figure out what the seven symbols are and just go straight back home. Whoop de doo. There's nothing else to do after that.
Right,
But like because of the scene of the hidden hieroglyphics, it helped push on who was the main villain, which is Raw.
right,
It was like okay, so here's some hidden hieroglyphics. Here's the backstory. Raw had these two gates. The main gate on Earth was used to, transport people over here to be used as slaves. But because there was a revolution, a retaliation on Earth, he decided to ditch the planet and just keep whoever he had on this planet and forbidden any type of writing or reading. I was like, okay, there we go. That's why in one of the scenes when he tried to draw the Eye of Ra, the people panicked and looked away.
right. Because they weren't allowed to read or write, so they would uh, panic, look away. They would cover it up. So they they avoid writing in all its forms. So the only reason that they even started communicating was that there was a one woman who defied the rules and she learned how to read, and it was through her that was Shauri, played by Millie Avital. So Shuri, hopefully I'm saying that right. Shauri. So Shauri, she learned how to read and write, and it was through her that Daniel. See, Daniel was an Egyptologist. He knew enough about communication to be able to translate some of the hieroglyphics. So because she knew how to write, she's able to teach him how to pronounce the words, and then that's how they were able to communicate.
The next good scene is when Daniel had to figure out how they're going to like he had a choice to either kill the colonel and the rest of the crew or let Earth be destroyed by the bomb that Colonel Jackson had to bring with him and turn on when they was able to get back to the other side and blow up that side of the gate and not the one they have on
Right, right,
Earth.
right. So yeah, see, here's the thing: if Ra had shown up and he became the main villain when he showed up, he wasn't on the planet at first. But it seems to me that had Ra not shown up, because it seemed like he just shows up arbitrarily, like he didn't have to be there. I think the reason that he had the slaves on this planet is so that they can mine the mineral that his technology relies on. So they're there and they're just working in mines. And it seems to me, had he not shown up, he probably showed up to collect some minerals or whatever. But had he not shown up, then Colonel O'Neill would probably be the main villain because his purpose was to, after coming to the other side of the gate, after everybody went back to Earth, he was going to blow up the gate on the planet and stay on the planet because for him it was a suicidal mission. He was suicidal. If you remember the very beginning of the film, uh, he's in his house. The Air Force shows up and to tell him that he's been reactivated, and he hides a pistol that he had been holding. And he had not been communicating with his wife for months, I guess. And this is because he was in a severe depression because his son died. So he was basically catatonic. He was almost not participating in the world around him. So he's about to kill himself. And so when they reactivated him and gave him this mission, this is basically a way that he could commit suicide because he was going to blow up the gate and be blown up with the gate. That he felt good about doing that. So so I think that it would have been a completely different story. He would have been a bad guy. They would have been trying to convince him not to blow himself up and not to blow up the gate. So thank goodness that Ross showed up and changed everything.
Let's see. The next good scene was this is outside. There's a group inside the pyramid or where the Stargate is at. They're fighting. because they want to be able to stop Raw from activating the bomb and sending it to Earth with the materials that was used to create the Stargate, which would cause the bomb to become more destructive than it already was alone.
Right.
So there's that team inside, and then there's a team outside. The team outside is dealing with two aircrafts that are firing at them. Now they're running out of ammo. They have no choice but to just put up their hands and surrender, which caused the aircrafts to land, and the two guards slowly walk towards them. Now, as they're just waiting for the demise to come, you have, I think you said his name was Kasov, who
Kowalski.
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 Kowalski. You
Yeah,
sure?
I think so. Huh? Let me look up.
No, I'm talking about the guy, the chief of the.
Of
I
the,
think that's the village. The
oh, the
people
chief
of
of the
the
village.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
Kursov. He comes
Kosov.
up,
Yeah.
yeah, he come hands raised up, started shouting something, and that's when the rest of the people came shouting out something and charged towards the two guards.
Right.
Now they can't just fire off one shot after another. No, it's like one shot, wait, and by
Right.
the time they could get at least a few, they're already surrounded. So they're just going around swinging the staff. But that
Right.
doesn't work because they're getting outnumbered by a bunch of people.
Right. Yeah. Apparently, those energy weapons. They had energy staffs. Horus. Well, the guards from Ra's guards that had been flying those fighters. So they have these energy staffs that they use as weapons. So apparently they need time to charge up. So they can't fire like automatic weapons. It takes some time to fire one shot after the next. They have enormous destructive power. Like if when they shoot off into the crowd, they're killing like 5 or 6 people at a time with those staffs. But the people are fearless, and they get rushed. They can't fire enough shots to deal with hundreds of people, and they basically get overwhelmed rather quickly.
And
uh,
by the way, I was gonna say, by the way, the reason why he's there is because he found out in an earlier scene where the guards are not actually these, threats of mechanical creatures. They're just humans wearing
right,
it to
right,
hide who they really are.
right. They're not.
And
They're
he
not
gets upset
gods.
because he was basically deceived, thinking that these are something of a threat,
Right,
and it's
right.
basically repeating what happened on Earth, where there's a revolution going on. Uh,
Right. Yeah, so they actually have their own revolution in this planet because they figured out that these guards, these men are not, they're not gods. They're not something to be feared. That they can be overwhelmed because it's not so much as that they saw that these guards were men. It was more like these guards were defeated because they've never defeated a guard before. They never saw what the guards wore these enormous, elaborate headsets, and that's all they saw. They had these enormous headsets that made them look like the Egyptian gods from the hieroglyphic with the dog head or the eagle head and the human bodies. So that's all they saw. So when uh, they were defeated. Colonel O'Neill and his men had defeated one of the guards at the village, and they were able to remove his helmet. So not only did they say a defeated God, but they saw that he was just a man because his helmet was removed. So that basically encouraged them that they could start a revolution and free themselves of the slavery.
okay, so the next good part is when Colonel O'Neill is fighting Anubis, who apparently have a grudge against him. Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
it was a weird grudge because they just met. They had like one little fight when they was captured. When Roth and his men first showed up, it's like a weird little grudge match that
Right,
he
right,
and it's weird, but that fight was good.
right, right.
And then it gets better because during the fight, the Colonel O'Neill has him pinned down, and then as he has him pinned down, he's about to press the teleporter beam or device, whatever that Anubis has. Now, while he's doing that, we have what's his
Daniel.
name? Daniel, basically about to be killed by Ra, while he's trying to. Like, he can't do anything because Ra is holding his head with some weird device that's scrambling his brains, I guess.
Yeah,
And while that's happening, when Jonathan pressed the button it beams him and also Sahuri out of that situation, but it
Right,
also kills Anubis, beaming his head to Ra. And
right,
I think
right,
Ra
right.
lost his hand. I'm not sure
No,
because
Rod didn't lose his hand, but yeah,
okay,
that was
so
a neat scene. So they had a so Ra and his ship is connected to the pyramid. He has a teleportation device that transport his personnel to the pyramid where they can go to the planet or whatever, because his spaceship is sitting right on top of the pyramid. So and it's a beautiful pyramid shaped ship, and it fits directly over the pyramid that's on the planet, and I thought that was all just wonderfully done. It was a beautiful special effects. So he has a teleportation rig. It comes down like a cage. You go into the teleportation area. The cage comes down around you, and then you get beamed, and then another cage inside the pyramid itself. It comes down, and then it beams you down, and that's how their teleportation technology works. So in a fight that Zachary's talking about, when Colonel O'Neill is fighting the Anubis. Anubis' arm, well, his head gets is in the area, the teleportation area where the rig would come down. So and then Anubis has control for the teleportation cage on his other palm that Colonel O'Neill in his grappling has control of. So he slams the arm down, presses the button, the cage comes down where it's just covering. It comes down basically on top of his chest. So when the teleport activates, it's only going to transport his head. It's not going to transport the rest of his body, and that ends that fight. And at the same time, Daniel's in a situation where he was actually trying. Daniel himself was revived by Ra. Uh, there was a scene where everybody was captured, and
yeah,
then Colonel
Dave's
O'Neill,
Colonel Neil tried to fight back,
right, tried
causing
to fight
Davison to
back.
get shot.
Right, Daniel gets shot, and he gets shot with the energy weapon, shot and killed. And so Ra, for apropos of nothing, just because he felt like it, put Daniel in one of his uh, resurrection tubs. So
I
basically,
think he did because he thought he was like admiring his work, I guess, or something. Because he did have his the Eye of Ra necklace on him.
I guess I don't know. It was that's a good a reason as any. So so yeah. So I guess he admired Daniel in some kind of way. So he resurrected Daniel in the resurrection bathtub. So so Daniel knows about this bathtub. In another fight, uh, some girl that he likes, the girl that taught him how to speak that language, Shauri, she gets out. So he takes her to the resurrection tub, and so he's trying to escape. So he ends up in the he gets as far as the teleportation area, and so that's when Ra palms his forehead and starts to scramble his brain, and then the rig starts to come down. So Ra actually moves his hand just in time. The rig comes down around Daniel and his girlfriend, teleports them away from danger, and then teleports up the head of Anubis. So yeah, that sequence that you talked about, that was absolutely awesome.
Also, in that same scene, they did already activate the bomb, and when Daniel returns back with Sahuri, you know, Colonel Colonel Jonathan has a change of heart, change of mind. He goes to try to deactivate it. That doesn't work, and they're like flipping the switch, unplugging the top of it, and they're like, "This was rigged to bomb, no matter what."
Right, right,
Like the
yeah,
moment it was assembled and turned on, that was it. Because they only had 7 minutes
right,
to to get out, but because they couldn't turn it off, and they only had like 56 seconds left. They was trying to figure out a way to get rid of it. That's when they glanced over. Both of them glanced over to Anubis' body, and it was like, "I got an idea." And so what they did was
right,
they
right,
put the bomb where the teleportation was at, pressed the button so it can be teleported up to Raw's ship. Now at the same time, Raw's like, "You know what? I'm not having this. I see the revolution. I'm just gonna go and grab another planet to have slaves on."
hello, can you hear me? You're
But
breaking up a
because
little bit.
oh, can you hear me now?
Technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Okay, you're back now. Yeah,
Okay.
you were offline
So
for a minute.
I don't know why. So what I was saying was
So you were saying that that you were talking about the part where they was teleporting
The
the
bomb to Ra's
bomb
ship. And
to
at
Ross
that
ship.
moment, Ra was basically about to ditch the planet because one, the revolution was there and he wasn't trying to deal with that. And so he decided to leave. But at the same time, when he was trying to leave, they sent the bomb up to his ship.
Right,
And when it
right.
was sent, he was like, "Oh, well, this is my end." After so long, was trying to avoid death. I, I apparently this is where I die because I try to avoid death so hard.
Right. So yeah, that was a nice ending. I like that. So they teleported the because they still had Anubis's arm still there. So yeah, they put the bomb on the teleportation rig, took it back to his ship and it blew up. Now here's one of the plot holes that I told you about. So there was a scene where they had, remember we talked about that fight that when everybody was captured, Colonel was able to get one of the weapons, and that's the fight where
Yeah,
Daniel got shot. So
yeah.
there's a part in that fight where the Colonel was about to shoot Ra, but then Ra is surrounded by half naked children. So they surround Ra and basically form a human shield. And the Colonel's unwilling to shoot children because he has this issue with children and guns. And just like you see children is reminded of the son that he lost or whatever. So he's not going to shoot children to get to Ra, and so they basically had to surrender. But and that was another factor in him changing his mind, because if the nuclear bomb goes off, it's not just going to take out the Stargate itself. They'll probably take out that village that they saw on the planet. So he didn't want to kill that village just to deter people from coming using the Stargate. So but there's the thing about it is that the children are still with Ra when he's trying to
Oh yeah,
escape.
when he's still on the
He
ship, I'm like,
right. They
what
didn't
was the
rest.
whole point of not shooting the
Right,
kids?
right. They were I mean, they could have had a scene where Colonel O'Neill rescues the children, but they don't have that scene. So when they send the nuclear bomb back up to Ra's ship, he kills Ra and all the little children.
I
And
mean, that
funny,
and they would have had to have the scene where he actually used the teleporter to go up to the ship, which, yeah, no,
right.
they didn't have they didn't have enough time because of the bomb.
Right. The other thing is that well, he could have rescued the children way earlier. But the other thing is that they showed Ra being disintegrated by the bomb, and the reason they did that is because when they screened the film uh, to test audiences, the audiences saw the ship blow up, but they didn't see anything happen to Ra, so they were not really satisfied that Ra was dead. So when they shot a sequence where they saw. Uh, Basically Ra regressing to his alien state, and you see the bomb disintegrate Ra's body in slow motion. They show all of this, but they don't show what happened to the children, which also had to have been disintegrated by the same nuclear weapon. They didn't show that
I
part.
mean, I
Yeah,
think the audience only care about Raw being killed, not the children. I'm pretty sure the
yeah,
children would not
yeah.
let that mind.
But logically, the children would have died. There are a lot of logical fallacies. Like the thing about it is that when they go through the Stargate, they don't explain why they can't just open up the Stargate in order to communicate with the planet, or they have a system set up. And a lot of movies where they say, okay, because they know they don't have communication, it's like, okay, we're going to split up and we'll meet back here in 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. So they could have set up the same type of schedule on Earth and be like, okay, you're gonna go through the Stargate, and then after like 30 hours, we're gonna open up the Stargate again, and see if you want to come back home or
Maybe
whatever.
time works differently when you go through. Who
I mean,
knows?
that's possible. Yeah, all of this is possible, but none of this is explained. You know what I'm saying? There's
Yeah,
no explanation for this. Is that okay, just go through and come back when you're ready. It's like, so they were expecting Daniel to be able to reopen the Stargate from the other side because he told them that he could. But the problem is that he lied about it. He wasn't exactly sure. Well, he knew that he could reopen the Stargate, but he didn't tell them that he needed instructions. He needed a tablet in order to get the coordinates back to Earth. And he assumed that the tablet would be by the Stargate and he could just dial the Stargate and send it back to Earth. But there was no tablet by the Stargate. So he said, well, we have to find it. He's like, so basically you lied to us. You lied to us when you said that you could bring us back. Now we're stuck here. But they
I
could avoid.
mean, it
Go
was a
ahead.
half truth, a half lie.
Right.
Because he did say he could get it back, but the issue is he just needed the tablet. He wasn't gonna go into detail saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna need to make sure that the tablet." You couldn't make sure. All you did was send a drone, and that was it. You didn't really
Yeah. They
do
could have
any
sent.
real surveys.
Right. They could have sent a bunch of drones, but they only sent that one drone. And actually, you really can't even call it a drone because when you say drone nowadays, people think about a flying robot. No, they sent a rolling robot, like a police bomb robot. That's what it looked like. So they sent that robot, a slow crawling robot, through the Stargate in order to do some readings and take some pictures. They could have sent a bunch more, and they could have had the robot make sure that there was a tablet there, but they didn't do all that. It's like as soon as they sent the robot through, it's like, okay, you living human beings, you going next. so uh so they sent the people through without any real way of knowing that they could get back home, and that really all they really wanted to do was blow up the gate on the other side so that nothing else comes through, which is a very military way of thinking. It's like they're not thinking about exploration or discovery or anything like that. Their only concern is like, is there a threat? Blow it up. That's all that's all they care about, and that's kind of a messed up way of looking at the Stargate. So they have this marvelous opportunity to explore this alien world, and the only thing they want to do is blow up everything. So, so yeah, that's one of the things I had to deal with. So, what was I was going somewhere with that, and then I kind of lost track. You got any more comments about what you liked about the movie?
Nope, that was about it.
All right, so let's move on to the trivia. So, as we get all of our trivia. You got this trivia from IMDb. I got a snippet from some videos I watched. I watched some videos so I can remind myself what happened in the movie because my memory is that bad. So there's some trivia I got from the videos that I watched. So Ra's eye glowing effect was added in post production because test audiences didn't think that he was alien enough. This trait was continued in Stargate SG-1 1997 as an identifier of people who were taken over by the Goa'uld. Interesting about this movie, it was so popular that it spawned a TV series. It spawned several TV series. There was at least three series and like three or four television movies based on the Stargate. They really went out of their way to expand and revive Stargate in the 1990s with a long running TV series. And I started to watch the series. I think I only got to like two seasons, but the sticking point for me was uh, Colonel Jack O'Neill. So in the movie, he was played by Kurt Russell. I really like Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell was like very stoic. He was a very straight laced military Air Force man. And then they did the movie. The movie was played, and I mean the TV show. And the TV show, the same character was played by Richard Dean Anderson, and he played the character totally different, and it was a total. I couldn't watch it the way he played it. And they changed the mythology of the movie a little bit in the TV show. In some ways, it made sense. In some ways, it didn't make sense. But I don't know if you ever seen the show called MacGyver, this old TV show.
I mean, what a guy basically can somehow make things out of what's surrounding him.
Right. So that's Richard Dean Anderson, and that's the guy who played Colonel O'Neill in the Stargate TV series. So he kind of played O'Neill the same way he played MacGyver, and at that it basically turned me off. I couldn't. I wanted Jack O'Neill to be the same way he was in the movie, and he wasn't on the TV show. Uh, so uh, so that's why I. But there are a lot of people liked it, and it lasted a long time, and had a bunch of other TV shows related to it. All right, you can go ahead.
Right. James Spader admitted that he did the film for money as he found the script to be awful. He said, "Acting for me is a passion, but it's also a job, and I always approached it as such. I have a certain manual laborist view of acting. There's no shame in taking a film because you need some effing money."
That is correct. But he also said this in a magazine interview. James Spader said that he found the original screenplay awful, but also that it was so bad it actually intrigued him. He then met with Roland Emmerich, was inspired by the director's passion for the project, and decided to make the movie because he felt the energy and craziness of making such a film would translate into an exciting final film. But I think the statement that you read was more true than the statement that I read.
Uh, Jay Davidson dislike of the attention that he received after the Crying Game that came out in 1992 made him reluctant to
Uh-huh.
take the role of Raw in Stargate that came out in 1994. He didn't want to just turn the offer down, so he made what he expected to be an unacceptable demand of $1 million. This was accepted, and he appeared.
Right, right. So that's kind of funny.
So that his plan just backfired on him.
Well, it didn't backfire. It worked. It's like if they want me, they're gonna have to pay $1 million. I because he did not want to do it, and as it turns out, they was like, "We want you so bad, we will pay you $1 million." So it basically worked in his favor. It was for him. It was a win-win situation. So the Crying Game was a very famous movie that came out in 1992. I didn't watch it because it really wasn't something that interests me. It's like a drama. I'm not watching a whole bunch of dramas. I want an action, fighty movie, not a dramatic. I'm going to cry movie. So
I
the
mean,
crying,
I say it was like a loss because at like yeah he wins money, but at the same time he wasn't interested in taking the role of Raw,
right,
and he
right.
didn't want to like okay I don't want to turn it down, so I'm just gonna do something that's not gonna happen. There's no way they're gonna give him the money. Gave him the money. He's like, well, looks like I have to do it then.
Well,
So
yeah,
that's what
but
I'm saying. It's like a win loss situation.
well, he still got $1 million. So he made it worth his time. It's like whenever you don't want to do something, you make a demand. It's like if you I don't want to do it, but if you really want me to do it, you're gonna have to give me something that I really want. You know, you're gonna have to make it worth my while. And this is a tactic that most actors use, especially if it's a project that they're not interested in appearing in. So and basically James Spader basically kind of said the same thing. It's like this is not a movie that he wanted to appear in, but they made because you get so much money acting in big budget films, and this was a big budget film. He decided to go ahead and do it because you need to pay the rent. So it's basically a decision that a lot of actors make. So and Jay Davidson's reasoning was way different from Spader's, and so in the Crying Game, he basically played a transgender character, so a transgender woman. So apparently, from that performance, he got a lot of attention that he did not like, and I think it was because of the attention from that movie. He didn't like the attention that Hollywood movies gives actors. So that's one of the reasons that he didn't want to be in Stargate because he didn't want the attention that comes with being in such a movie. So James Brown's scream from "I Feel Good" was used as a sound effect in a scene demonstrating the alien taking control of the young boy's body. I don't remember seeing that part, but
I do.
apparently,
It's
oh
when they
okay,
was going over the backstory of Raw when he was like,
oh
oh
right,
yeah,
okay,
because he was dying, he went to another planet, had a beam come down, everyone else ran away except for this one boy who went up to the beam.
right, okay, and they used "I Feel Good." That's pretty awesome. What's the
The
next one?
early pre-release screening of the movie was disasters.
Disastrous.
Yeah, disasters. Ugh. The
You know
percentage
words. You know
of
how to say this.
well, this was a disaster. The percentage of the audience who liked the movie fell into the mid 30s. And executive producer Mario Casar realized the main problem was that the plot made zero sense. His solution: have the raw characters' dialogue subtitle and made into information that presented a clear storyline. When these changes were made, the subsequent
subsequent.
Subsequent test screening produced an overwhelming majority of positive reviews and carried the movie into becoming one of the surprise hits of fall in 1994.
Right. So yeah, this movie was a big hit, and yeah, that was funny. Is that the movie, and it still had some logical problems. But apparently, in the first screening, it made absolutely no sense. And this is probably why a lot of the actors like James Spader and John Davis, and why they didn't want to be in this movie, because they probably read the script like, this is dumb, it doesn't make any sense. So they were able to make enough changes where it made enough sense where it could make money as a movie. So, on to the next one. According to the DVD commentary, the group of scantily clad youths surrounding Raw were intentionally included to create the unease in the audience, and they succeeded.
David Arnold was working as a clerk at a record store in England when he was recommended to compose the score for this film. On the DVD's commentary track, Dean Delvin and Ronald Emmerich
That's
admitted that
Roland.
they, Roland,
Roland, yeah,
yeah,
Roland Emmerich.
Roland Emmerich admit that they were a bit nervous after hiring him, since his first scoring experience at the time was limited to a few short films and only one full-length movie. However, their doubts were gone as soon as they heard what Arnold had composed, and they continued their cooperation with him on Independence Day that came out in 1996 and Godzilla that came out in 1998. Emmerich and Delvin also state that the quality of Arnold's score for the movie is best exemplified by the countless times it was reused in trailers, TV sports, and programs.
So it's actually, you said he was a clerk at a record store. It's actually record.
Record.
Back in the day, that's how we pronounce that word. Back in the, but obviously there are no record stores anymore. You can see records at at Walmart or Target
It,
sometimes. I guess they make them for DJs or people who
they're
are
vinyl records. They're vinyl
right,
records.
vinyl
And they
records.
have the machines in the stores too.
Right. So people are nostalgic for vinyl records, and they think that vinyl records sound better than like MP3s or MP4s or whatever, but that's false. They don't sound better. They have a lot of interference, and people just like that interference. Not that they sound better, but people like that scratchy interference that you hear from vinyl record. So yeah, he was just a dude working in a record store. He had done a couple of projects, but his main job was working in a record store. And and the director or the writers were nervous about hiring him. But after he did his thing, because that dude was a hidden talent, he knew what he was doing. He did his thing, and he put it on it, and he made a great score. He was a great composer. So on to the next one. The horse-like creatures on the planet were in fact real horses with external costumes draped over them. Dogs were also used.
Yeah,
So
it looked like no horse.
yeah, they had this giant rig over the horse, and then the horse also wore a skirt. Now I'm gonna get back to this later on, but where they were shooting was very, very hot. So and the rig was so heavy that the horse couldn't really gallop; it could only walk around. So they used dogs for that one scene where it was dragging Daniel. They had to use a dog for that, and so the dog wasn't actually dragging Daniel; it was dragging a doll
Oh
made to
yeah, I
look
could
like
tell it was a
Daniel.
doll.
Right?
That was too easy.
I didn't tell. You have some great eyes. I could not tell. I thought that was
The way the human body is dragged would not act the way a doll would be dragged.
right,
That's
right.
the easy difference.
Right. So
Uh,
I couldn't tell. It looked good to me. But anyway, so they dressed up a dog in the same rig, and the dog happily ran because that's what dogs do. But yeah, it was. But that's the thing about when I say it, I said the same thing when we talk about Willow when they took those dogs and they put them in these weird lizard-looking outfits. It's like, man, no, y'all just abusing these animals. They have to put this enormous plastic. I mean, they had to use a crane to put it on top of a horse and basically cover the horse's back and his entire head because the way the costume is, it's way larger than where the horse's head would be, which is why it didn't look like a horse, but it was like that was just too much. I'm not even an animal lover, but it was like the way they did that. It was like, man, they didn't have to do that horse like that. So let's go to the next one.
When Professor Lanford first sees the Stargate in the opening sequence, he exclaimed, Hergerd, Hava Erddet. This means, my God, what is that? I am not Norwegian. I'm sorry if I did it wrong. In Norwegian, Erk Holland native language.
Yeah, when I saw it, when they said it in the movie, and then I read the words, like there's no way any of us is going to be able to pronounce these words. So in the next one, high school teacher Omar Zadai claimed in a 1995 copyright infringement lawsuit that virtually the entire film was stolen from a manuscript he began writing as a college student. Zuddy even had his former Egyptologist professor from John Hopkins University vouch for him. Contrary to popular belief, Zunde never personally submitted his manuscript directly to Roland Emmerich and Dean Delvin. He claims he submitted it only once to 20th Century Fox, who rejected it in 1984, 5 years before Emmerich and Delvin ever even met. However, the suit alleges that Studio Canal eventually acquired a copy of the manuscript and some years later hired Emmerich and Delvin to make Stargate using Zunde's ideas. Zunde sued Emmerich, Delvin, and all of the film's other producers, Studio Canal and MGM, for $140 million in 1997. The case was settled out of court for $50,000. In 2013, Zunde published a novel called Egyptgate based on the manuscript he says he submitted to Fox. Now he
It feels
asked,
like a long stretch.
yeah, he asked for $150 million, and he settled for $50,000, which to me suggests that his claims were complete garbage.
Of
The
course, it's
studio,
complete
right?
nonsense.
The studio thought it was garbage, and it was cheaper for the studio to give him a little bit of money than to try to fight the lawsuits. Like, here, take this money and go away. Because sometimes it's easier to just pay off somebody to go away and than to try to fight it as a lawsuit.
And something tells me that novel didn't really go so well.
Yeah, I ain't never heard of it. It probably didn't go anywhere. It's like, oh yeah, what I've written is complete garbage. And that's why they rejected it. All right.
Jay Davidson despised the costume he wore so much on the last day of shooting his scenes. After hearing the final cut, he stripped naked on set without going to his trailer. Moreover, Davidson retired from acting after completion of this film. Since 1994, he has only appeared in the Bogil Project, and that
I
came out
think
in
it.
2000.
Go ahead.
That came out in 2009, a 17-minute film.
Yeah, I guess it's Borghild.
Borghild,
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 yeah.
whatever. I said it.
Borghild, yeah. So yeah, it was just a 17-minute film. He really didn't like acting after that, and so he didn't like experiencing acting in either of the major motion pictures that he made. I was like, as soon as it said cut, he took off all of his clothes. He's like, I'm done with this bull. I ain't doing this no more. I got $1 million. I'm out. So as it happens in Mexico, with most of the movie titles translated from English. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I'm reading the right thing. As it happens in Mexico, with most of the movie titles translated from English, the title of this movie was not a literal translation of the original title. Stargate became La Puerta del Tiempo, which translates to the Gate of Time. Some moviegoers mistakenly thought that the faraway planet the squad goes to was just a very early time in Egypt and were seriously confused with the storyline. Yeah,
Oh
they
yeah,
should
I'd have
be.
been heavily confused. Like, wait a minute, they're not going back into. Wait, what is this?
Right.
This makes no sense.
Right. And this is so stupid because it's Stargate, so they could have just easily called it La Puerta del Estrella, or how do you say it? Estrada. La Puerta del Estrada. They could have easily did that, but they didn't. Instead, because that would have been translated to the gate of stars, or the gate of the star, or
Yeah,
something
the
like
gate of
that.
the stars that would work
Right. That
because
would
they are
work.
going through the stars by going
Right.
through this gate. That'd
Right.
work. But calling
But
it the gate of time,
yeah,
no.
somebody should have fired that dude. So go ahead.
Although he had played a few bit parts before, this film has first substantial supporting role for Digimon.
Diamond,
Hanasu. Oh goodness gracious,
Hansu,
Hansu
Diamond.
credited as Diamond on the DVD commentary track. Dean Delvin and Roland Emmerich probably mentioned that although Steven Spielberg Hansu his big breakthrough in at Amistad
Yeah,
that came out in 1997, they discovered him before that.
right. Yeah, so Steven Spielberg did give Hansu his big break in Amistad. So yeah, that was a great movie. Uh, that people remember that movie because in that movie, Hansu was a slave that was captured. It was a slavery movie, so he was captured from Africa and brought to America to work as a slave, and he learned a few English words, and he was like, "Give us free, give us free." You know? He learned enough English to ask for his freedom. So that's what people remember about Amistad. But yeah, that was a great movie about that time period. So moving along, the Stargate is a system designed to open a wormhole. A wormhole is a hypothetical way of space travel called an Eisen-Rosen bridge, named after the scientists Nathan Rosen and Albert Einstein. According to them, the wormhole should be capable to unite two distant points in the universe, altering space-time laws to cross from a point from one point to another in a brief period of time. The name wormhole compares the universe to an apple with a worm boring through it to reach a point on the other side instead of crawling the long way around the outside. The name, the same concept was used in Contact in 1997 and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And one final one that I just discovered from a video. The desert scenes were shot in Yuma, Arizona, in the summer where it can get as high as 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Extras had to wear heavy robes. They had trouble retaining extras because of the heat. Uh, so they had you saw those people in the movie. They had hundreds of extras, and
Oh
they all
yeah, all
had
those people
right. They all
wearing
had to wear
those.
heavy robes,
Yeah,
and some of those people was like, "Nah, I ain't about this life. Nah, it's like I ain't coming back." They would have people falling out because of the heat. They had people wearing these huge tanks of water to make sure that people got water. People drank like 4 gallons of water a day, and they were not pissing. There was like 4 gallons of water, and they just sweated it all out. Now, I worked in the desert. I was deployed in Iraq in I think it was 2005 around that time. So yeah, it's so what would happen is that we would get so soaked in our uniforms. You took off our uniforms. Like uh, it smelled like what's the word I'm looking for? Um, uh, uh, Shoot, I'm stuck. I'm looking for a word and I can't find it.
smell like
uh,
cheese.
no, not cheese. It was worse than that. What's that cleaning product? Is a cleaning product. I want to say aroma, but aroma is not the right word. But it's a cleaning product that starts with A. And I can't think of it right now. But anyway, it would smell real bad. It was like worse than the worst smell that you thought that would come off of a human body, and so it smelled real bad. So I imagine that these guys that wore these robes, they had the same issues. So it was hot. People were
Talking about
sweating.
ammonia,
Ammonia.
ammonia.
Thank you. Ammonia. You smell like ammonia. I don't know why I forgot that word. And the other thing is that the people that what you call it, like you had what's his name, Kurt Russell. He wore a beret the whole time. Now, why is everybody else wearing a helmet and he's wearing a beret? That doesn't make any sense. But berets are very. I get that he's wearing it because it looks cool. It looks cool for the movie. He wears it the whole time. He never takes it off. Even though there are certain times that he should have taken it off, but he never took it off for most of the film. So it's hot out in the desert. He's wearing a beret. Berets are extremely hot. It's actually hotter to wear a beret in the desert than it would have been to wear a helmet. So he was he was in a bad situation. And they never showed sweat should have been pouring down his face. So they must have been constantly patting his face down because like I said, berets are super hot. It won some awards. So let's talk about these awards.
Yeah, in 1995, the Saturn Award Best Science Fiction Film and winner 1995 BMI Film Music Award David Arnold.
Yeah, so David Arnold won an award from BMI. I'm not exactly sure. I should have looked up what BMI was, but I didn't. So let's talk about what the critics think. So the critics, they gave it a 53% um, on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences gave it 73% because this movie wasn't made for critics. And IMDb reviews gave it 7.1 out of 10.
All right, so we have David Hunter from Hollywood Reporter. Stargate is a blast from the past in many ways, but imaginatively employs the latest special effects technology to give audience new thrills.
Yeah, I agree. That basically my sentiment of the movie. So we have James Baradellini. Oh shoot, I think I typed this wrong. I'm gonna try it anyway. I'm gonna try it again. Baradinelli. I'm gonna say Baradinelli. James Baradinelli, Real Reviews. He wrote a cinematic fireworks show without the grand finale. I disagree. That explosion when they destroyed Ra's spaceship, that was a grand finale. I don't know what he's talking about. Let's go.
Let's see, Izaki Hansan from San Francisco Chronicles, the kind of flick where Kurt Russell dispatched an Anubis looking baddie after first telling him in the kind of bon mot that elevates the thing, an entire letter grade. Give my regards to King Toot, a hole.
Tut. That's King Tut.
King Tut.
Yeah, that was the most action movie thing that happened in the movie, where Kurt Russell give my regards to King Tut, a-hole. That's just almost up there with yippee mother fracker. So
Okay, so I found out what BMI stands for. Broadcast Music Inc. That's what it is.
oh, okay, all right, excellent. I wonder if they're still giving out awards. Um, so anyways, I guess their music industry thing.
Yeah,
Um,
they also giving out awards
right, okay,
because
cool.
there's BMI Latin, BMI Pop. That was in 2021,
Right,
and
right.
then 2020 had the Latin Awards, Film, TV, Visual Media, Pop Awards, Gospel, Christian, R&B, Country, London.
Oh, so they all over the place then. Excellent.
Yeah.
So Roger Ebert, I'm sorry, because we talked about this dude before. Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun Times. We talked about this chat. We have a history together. The movie Ed Wood about the worst director of all time was made to prepare us for Stargate. See, that's unfair, Roger Ebert. That's really unfair. It's not that bad. You're just being kind of an a-hole at this point. So yeah, that was Roger Ebert saying. So do you have any more comments about Stargate?
No,
How do you feel about this movie?
it was good. The
See,
second part was good. Just the first part was boring as heck.
well, I thought that the movie took its time being dramatic and whatnot. It
Yeah,
was
it took too long.
yeah, I guess they could have shortened it up a little bit. It didn't need to be a whole 2 hours, but I did like the whole drama of the thing. You know, like the the way that everything was shot, like the first scenes when they first discovered the Stargate in the desert. That was a beautiful scene. How I felt like authentically, even though like Daniel's character and like Colonel O'Neill, that character, they were very stereotypical of their station. It was like Daniel Neal was very stereotypical military guy, and um, uh, Daniel was a very stereotypical scientific nerd genius, but still, I thought they were authentically played. So even though the movie really took its time, it was done well. Even though you kind of thought it was boring, but you still thought it was a great movie, which is the point of this series. I'm exposing you to the great movies I loved when I was growing up.
Yep,
So
yep.
the next movie is 48 Hours. So have you seen this movie before?
No.
This is going to be a great movie. You are going to love it. I guarantee it. Remember, you remember when we did Beverly Hills Cop?
Yeah.
So 48 Hours is similar. So we're going to take a look at that next week. So once again, if you like this show, then please rate us, write a review on Apple Podcasts, share it with someone, use the hashtag #BacklickCinema on Twitter or your favorite social media sites. Believe me, it matters. Be safe, hug your loved ones, and be outstanding.